Cool. Thanks, Larissa, for the introduction. Like I said, my name's Mel. I'm one of the chartered accountants here at Pingamora, and I guess part of our in-house Xero team as well. So big thanks for joining us this morning. Well, this afternoon now. Big welcome from the Bay of Plenty. It's a beautiful sunny day here, and I hope wherever you're tuning in from, it's nice where you are too. So the idea for today's session was just a bit of a catch-up, I guess. As Larissa said, we haven't been able to run any sessions for the last couple of months through COVID, through red light. So great to touch base with some of our clients and non-clients and reignite fire. So we've also just restarted for those clients that are on board with us. We have just restarted our Tuesday coffee sessions. So if anyone has any further questions or would like to book a more tailored session for themselves, feel free to register online and come and meet one of our team on Tuesday morning. So today's session, we're going right back to basics. It's right back to square one for Xero, and it's a session aimed at people that are just starting out on Xero, or perhaps looking to migrate across to Xero, or just wanting a real refresher on the basics. So first of all, what is Xero? So Xero is a cloud-based accounting software system. It's been in the market for a couple of decades now, but really sort of just came into its form in the last sort of 10 years. They still hold a really prominent market share just because they're a single cohesive system that works really well and really user-friendly with a bunch of different add-ons and compatibility. So the way that it operates is on a live bank feed system. So you're dealing with real-time data, so it can produce some really timely, up-to-date, powerful reports. It's safe and secure, so Xero operates on the same sort of level of security as your internet banking would. They've recently introduced a two-step authenticator, which is basically another step to ensure that it is you logging in, because at the end of the day, it is your financial data that you are looking at. It's easy to transfer, so if you're looking at moving across from another system, Xero's got a bunch of tools like the conversion toolbox and a bunch of other tools which make it really easy to facilitate that transfer. And in-house here, we actually did a big transfer for hundreds of our clients in bulk. Across from BankLink across to Xero as well. So if you do want a hand looking at that, then feel free to reach out. And it's easy to use. That's the biggie for us, and hopefully after today, you can take away at least one or two things which make it a little bit easier. So Xero pricing plans, there's a number of plans available here. So the first two plans there, your cashbook and your GST cashbook, are available through an accounting partner only. So if you were to go to Xero directly, those two unfortunately are not available. The remaining three there, they're available from Xero Direct. So if I just run from the top there, the cashbook is just your basic reconciling and reporting. So that's really good for your smaller businesses who are not GST registered, small sole trader operations, or mum and dad with a rental or couple of rental properties. Going forward, your GST cashbook is once you move over that $60,000 threshold and you need to register the GST. You get all your bank reconciliation and reporting, and it enables you to do your GST returns at Xero as well. Starter package is all of the above plus invoicing. So Xero allow you to do up to 20 invoices and bills per month. And then your standard package, which is what most people use, most sort of mid-sized businesses out there. And that's your full invoicing functions with expense claims, and most of your functionality is all in the standard package. And lastly, you've got premium package if you're dealing with multi-currencies, overseas transactions, and the likes. So what we're going to do now is I'll just jump into Xero itself, and we're just going to do sort of a screen share operation and work through some examples with you guys. So hopefully everyone can see what I'm seeing here. So Xero's got a demo company, and I strongly encourage if anyone is new to Xero or wants to try it out, just to come and have a little look at the demo company. They offer a 30-day free trial period, which has this exact demo company in it with a bunch of dummy data. So by all means, if you're wanting to have a play around or have a tutu, jump into Xero.com, and there's a big try now for free for 30 days button. So for now, we've jumped into Xero. I've just logged in here, and this takes you to your landing screen. So essentially what you're seeing here is the dashboard page. It's the landing screen here. Some organizations will look slightly different to others.
Oh, raised hand.
Got a raised hand here.
You just go to the chat. I cannot see Xero on the screen. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully, thanks for reaching out.
Thank you.
Hopefully now that's showing the Xero screen here. I think I must have just been stuck on the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So I haven't really clicked on anything. This is just the Xero landing page.
Just hit the chat. Awesome, thanks.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks for that. So yeah, your different organisations may look slightly different, but they all sort of have the same navigation here. You're able to set up multiple Xero entities. So if you've got a company and a trust and a sole trader with 3 different Xero files, for example, you can access them all under the one login by clicking the change organisation tab up here on the left, and that enables you to switch between them under the same login here. Just a little bit of navigation. I always find this navigation bar at the top here is the easiest way to get around Xero. It's on every page, and if you ever get lost, all you have to do is come and click back on the dashboard here. The business tab, so this is if you're on the standard, the starter package or more. This is where all your invoicing and billing is done through your business here. Accounting shows all your reports and GST returns, which we'll touch on later. And we've got a payroll add-on, which is a whole nother can of worms in itself, so I won't touch on payroll too much. And also projects is another add-on available to Xero. And Xero also has a contacts database here, which you can add all your customer addresses and everything, and it will build this database as you do your coding in Xero as well by itself. Sweet, so I might just jump into it. Back to the dashboard here. What we're looking at here is just an overview of the entity. So generally your bank accounts will be listed down this left-hand side here. So I can see I've got my business bank account and my business savings account. And there's also a few other handy tips and tricks in here if you want to keep an eye on invoices owed to you, or bills coming up, or specific accounts, and track them as the year progresses. So like I was saying before, Xero operates a live bank feed system where it imports the prior day's transactions directly from your internet banking, and it plonks them into Xero here, ready for us to reconcile. So at the moment, I can see there's 28 items ready to reconcile in our business bank account and just the one in our savings account. So if I just jump into our business bank account here, we can go through some examples. Sweet. So now we're in our business bank account here. Down the left-hand side here is essentially a direct replica of what you're seeing on your bank statements. You've got some transaction details here, the date, the payee, and the particulars, and then you've got a spent and received column over here. And on the right-hand side, this is where we do our accounting work. So if I scroll down to one that we can use as an example, this one here, Cooper Street Bakery, and we want to come over to our right-hand side over here. There's 2 boxes that are compulsory for us to fill out, and that's the who box and the what box. So the who box here, this more often than not is just our payee. So you can start typing Cooper Street Bakery. And at the moment, because we're in a new Xero file, Cooper Street Bakery is not an existing contact, so it's giving us the option to create a new contact. So I can tab across and it'll pop up with new. You can also, what I often do is just copy and paste the payee straight from the payee box, straight into the who box. And the what box here, this is categorizing what sort of transaction we're looking at here. So it's choosing whether it's an expense going out or income coming in, or the purchase of a new asset, or perhaps paying off a liability. So there's a few different ways of choosing your account here. I can start typing the account I want to put it to. So in this case, I might put it down as a travel expense. We might have picked up some, a meal on the way to a job out of town, and we want to claim a travel expense for that. So I can start typing travel, and it'll bring up all my codes under that name. If I'm a numbers person, I can start punching in the numbers, and it'll bring up the travel code. Or if I'm not sure at all, I can click this little drop-down box, and it will open up my full chart of accounts, and I can just select the most appropriate account here. Once those two boxes are filled out, this little OK box has popped up. 9 times out of 10, I'm okay to go and push OK on that. It's optional to leave a little description here in the Y box. For most transactions, particularly ones like this Cooper Street Bakery, I wouldn't worry about, but if you've got some big one-off items that are sort of out of the normal line of your business, or things that your bookkeeper or accountant is going to want to know what they are down the track, often a good idea just to leave a description for yourself or your bookkeeper down the track, because often it's 6 months, 12 months, 18 months before you're coming back and looking at these transactions. So really good. But now I'm just going to leave that as is and hit OK. And once I've done that, that transaction is now reconciled. So the really good thing about Xero is it's machine learning. So you'll notice this next transaction down here is also to Cooper Street Bakery. At the moment, there's nothing in our boxes here. However, if I click refresh, Xero has remembered our last transaction to Cooper Street Bakery, and it's pre-populated all these fields for us. So, so it's taking out the manual entry there. So again, I can go ahead and click OK when I'm happy. So it's important to note Xero just memorises off the prior transaction, so it's not always correct. It is worth having a glance over and checking, but in that case, I'm happy as it is. So as you go on through Xero, your first month or first couple of months, there is some manual data entry. However, Xero's machine learning sort of starts to take over after a few transactions, and as time goes on, it can be a really speedy way of doing all your coding, but it's all memorized. Sweet. Might just so there's a question there from Katie. Are the drop-down items in the what box preset? Yes, they are. So Xero offers a default chart of accounts, which is available when anyone starts a new Xero file. Or if you're a client of ours, we'll set up a default chart of accounts for you as well. And if you've got tailored codes that you want to add in there, by all means, you can chop and change and add codes as necessary, for sure. So next transaction I want to look at is a split transaction. So if I just go down and look at my next page here, there's that new world example. Here we go. So this is the perfect example. We might have nipped down to the shops to pick up some supplies for work, and we also might have grabbed some milk and bread as well for home, which is not a business expense. So in that case, we'd want to claim a portion as a business expense and a portion as private. So to do that, what I can do is click this Add Details button. And that just opens up this full drop-down menu down the bottom here, and enables me to add multiple line items. So in our description box, we might have business and private. For our accounts, this one to general expenses, and anything private is going to go to a drawings account. And you can see here that GST is only being calculated on the portion that is a general expense. So there's a couple of different ways of doing it here. If I know the fixed dollar amounts, I can put a 1 in the quantity box and a fixed dollar amount in the unit price box. And I can also use these little boxes as calculators as well. So if I put -10 in there and 10 in here, it'll do the math for me. And our total at the bottom is 3460, which matches with our total at the top here, the transaction total. So that's one way of doing it. Another common scenario is motor vehicle expenses, where a certain percentage is deductible. So in that case, what you would do when you're splitting out your two lines is you can have the full amount in the unit price. Oh, 34.60, sorry. And for the quantity box, here's where I can choose my proportion that's business and proportion that's private. So if I go 0.5, 0.5, again, that's going to do the math for me and only claim GST on the business portion here. So when I'm happy, I just want to double check that total matches with the total of our transaction here. I can go ahead and click reconcile. And it's going to go green saying that it all matches. Perfect. So matching payments. This function here is only available for those using invoicing. Like I say, if you're on the GST cashbook or cashbook packages anyway, you won't have this invoicing function, but I'll touch on it today anyway. So these ones here, this payment from Ridgeway University has been received, and we can see that it's gone green in Xero here. So what's happened is at some stage in the past, we would have generated a sales invoice to Ridgeway University for $6,187.50. And what's happened here is now we've received payment for that invoice, and Xero has recognised that the payee matches with the outstanding payee in our debtors, and the dollar amount matches as well, and it's matched that payment received with our outstanding invoice. So when I go ahead and click OK, what's going to happen is Xero will now mark that invoice as paid, so they'll no longer appear as a debtor, and that transaction is reconciled. So this one, Truxton Property Management, this is a similar scenario where at some stage in the past, we would have generated a bill within Xero, and Xero is, we've now paid that amount, and Xero has recognised that the payment matches with the bill that we've got in our system, and it's gone green. So next one down here, Smart Agency. This is another scenario where we've paid a couple of bills in one. So Xero hasn't recognised that it matches up automatically because there's two bills in the one payment here. So it hasn't gone green automatically. So in this case, we need to do a little bit of manual work here and find the invoices that it relates to. So to do that, what I can do is go into this match function here. And what that does is brings up all our outstanding invoices in the system. So I can view them all, scroll through them all like this. Or if I've got heaps in there, what I can do is narrow it down with a search reference. In this case, I'm going to type in Smart. And that's just going to bring up my invoices outstanding for Smart. And I can see these two here, 2,000 and 2,500, match with our 4,500 total here. So I'm going to go ahead and click those two. And Xero's now gone green, showing that they match. And I can go ahead and click reconcile. Now those two invoices are going to be marked as paid. All right. So last one here on our invoicing. I just want to touch on a part payment. Wherever it is. Oh, it's right at the top here. So city limousines here. A similar scenario here where we might have invoiced city limousines, invoice number 0017, and what they've done is they've paid us a part payment here of $100. So again, Xero hasn't picked up by itself that the payment matches with the invoice because the dollar amount differs. So again, we've got to do a little bit of manual work. So if I look in our match function again, and again, I've got a bunch of invoices here. This one is for 0017. I can see here there's an 0017 invoice outstanding. I can tick that off. And what I've got pop up here is a little split button. So if I tick that, that shows the total amount outstanding on the invoice, our part payment that's applied to the invoice, and the remaining amount that's left on the invoice. So I can go ahead and click split, and that applies the payment to the invoice. And when I'm happy, I can go ahead and click reconcile. Cool. So that's the midst of reconciling the very basics anyway to get you started. I'll touch on a few of these other tabs that we've got along here. We've looked at match and we've looked at create. This next tab here is a transfer tab. So if I just scroll down to an example, here we go. So we've got $1,000 has been deposited into this account, and it's come across from our savings account. So what I can do is click into this transfer tab. I can select my business savings account and I can click OK. And on the other side, when I'm reconciling my savings account, I should see a direct mirror of that transaction. So I should see $1,000 spent. So when I go across to my savings account, here it is here. So because we've put through the transaction, the transfer within the business account, Xero is recognizing that there's an outstanding transaction there ready to be matched up, and this one has gone green, ready for us to reconcile. So I can go ahead and click OK. So it's important to note that the transfer tab is only used for bank accounts that are connected by a live feed on Xero. You wouldn't use it for transferring personal funds from a personal bank account into Xero or withdrawing funds. It's only for accounts that are connected on Xero. And our last tab across here, we've got a discuss tab. So this is one we see used a little bit with our clients, particularly ones that we do GSTs for. So often what you can do is come in here and leave a little note, whether it be, not sure where to code something or how to treat something. You can start typing in here. I can save that. And you can flick your accountant or bookkeeper a call or give them an email and say, ask them to jump into your Xero file, and they will be able to log in here and see exactly what you're looking at and pick up where you need to go. So that is a really handy one. Right, and moving across here from our reconcile tab, we've got cash coding. So cash coding is a really good way of bulk coding a whole bunch of transactions all in one. So this is where we will generally start when we're looking after our clients' GSTs. It really speeds up the whole process of reconciling your transactions. So here we are in here. Essentially what we're looking at is all the same data that we saw on the last screen, just in a more condensed version. So what I like to do is come in here and sort by payee. And that just groups everything together. And what's an example I can use here? City central parking is a good example. I just want to bulk code all of these all in one hit. I know they're all going to be the same thing. They're all just going to be a travel expense for parking. So I can click the top one, hold my shift button, and click the bottom one, and it will select them all. And in our account here, I can start typing travel, tab across, and that's going to choose travel for all of the accounts and set the GST at 15% GST for all the accounts. And then I can click save and reconcile selected. So that just bulk codes all those items for me. So often when we're doing clients GSTs, we'll come in here and, at the end of the 2-month period or end of the 6-month period, there might be hundreds of transactions all in your Xero file ready to code. So it's great to come in here and bulk code what you can. And then for those individual items, you can move back to your reconcile tab and work through them one by one. One thing you can't do within your cash coding screen is match with invoices. So if you are using the invoicing function in Xero, you have to do your matching through the reconcile tab here. Cool. And there's other 2 tabs along the side here. So we've got bank statements. And this just shows a direct import from your internet banking. And once you've got your live bank feed set up, there's not a whole bunch you can do in here. And lastly, we've got our account transactions tab. So this one here shows a full history of all your coding from this bank account. So it's a really good place to come and look if you've wanting to check your history of what you've coded, where you've coded something, or or who's coded it, you can jump into this account transactions tab and find what you're looking for. So this will go all the way back to the date that your bank feeds are set up and transactions were imported back to, and it'll always be in Xero, so nothing's ever going to go missing. So what we often use when we're in here to narrow it down is the search button. So there's a number of different ways you can do it. You can search by name, dollar amount, the date range. In this case, I might just put in one of these parking ones that I've just coded. Cool, that's brought up all my transactions for Central City Parking that I just coded. And say, for example, I decide that one of them is actually a personal transaction, that wasn't business related at all, and I want to go back and change it. What I can do is I can click into one of them, and I've got a couple of different options. I can either remove and redo the transaction, and that will simply spit it back out into your original reconcile screen, and you can start again, or I can edit the transaction directly from this screen here. So to do that, I can jump in here and change the code directly here. If it's personal, I'll put it to drawings, and that's going to update my GST here, and I can click update. Cool. So that's basically bank reconciliation. Well, the very basics of it anyway. The good thing about Xero is you can't really make an error. There's always a full history of your transactions and everything. So if something does go wrong, you can always go back and back it out and start again. And you know, all your reports and everything, your GST returns and everything are all driven off your coding here. So provided that's done to a reasonable standard, then you can get some really good reports out of Xero. The last thing I will touch on with regards to bank feeds is a reconciliation report. So you might have noticed here on any of these screens, we're given two balances here, the statement balance and the balance in Xero. So the statement balance is directly imported from your internet banking, and that's a balance at today's date. And then the balance in Xero shows the balance less all of these transactions that haven't been reconciled. So what you should see once all your transactions are all reconciled and you're all up to date is you should see these two balances the exact same. If you're not, there's a number of different reasons that can happen. Occasionally, you know, your internet banking has an update and the live feed drops out, or there's a technical glitch, there's been a double up. What you can do is run a bank reconciliation report. Again, there's a number of different ways of getting to this, but it's available here within this reconcile screen. So this report here basically shows a breakdown of all the transactions that make up the totals that we were seeing on that other screen. So if I jump across to our savings account, which is all up to date, we should see the balance in Xero and the statement balance are the same, and there's no errors at all. And our business bank account, we've got a bunch of items to reconcile, and there's a balance outstanding at the bottom. So something to be aware of. It's a good idea just to come in here and check your bank reconciliation, at least at the end of the GST period, because sometimes there are outstanding payments or things that are missed or things that are doubled up, which just need to be checked on. Cool. So next thing I want to move on to, and I know we've only got a short amount of time today, is our GST returns. So hopefully after today you can at least do your coding and file a GST return. So up in the top navigation bar here, I've got accounting, and under accounting I've got reports. So there's literally 100 or so reports within Xero, and obviously not all of them are going to apply to your entity. So it's worth coming in here and having a little play. The most commonly used ones are probably a balance sheet to check your financial position, a profit and loss, and a GST return, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. So GST return is sitting here under taxes and balances. And if it's one that I use commonly, I can click this little star and it just favorites the report. And once that star's clicked, it'll pop down in this little drop down section here. So I can use it all the time. So I'm going to click straight into our GST return. So Xero's got a really good function where it has a direct link with your My IR account with IRD, and it has that for GST and also for your PAYE and payroll payday filing. So it's a really good function to be able to do it all in the one system, as opposed to sending off a manual, a paper copy return or filing it manually online. So in the GST return screen here, we've got two tabs. We've got our Due Now tab, which shows any GST returns that are due at today's date. And we've also got a Final Returns tab here. So this will retain any returns that you've filed through Xero, along with a full audit report and full transaction history, so you can see exactly what was filed and when it was filed, and what was included in the return. So for now, I'm going to jump into our Due Now tab and click this draft return here. This one is for the May-June 22 period, which is just ending today. So I've got 28 days left. It's due to be filed on the 28th of July. So if I click in here, this takes me to my GST return. So for those that have filed GST returns before, this looks very similar to a paper copy return. All the boxes and everything correlate directly with IRD's boxes. So straight off the bat, I'm given a prompt up here that there's 15 unreconciled statement lines that fall within this May to June period. So it's asking me that I should go and complete those, complete the coding for those transactions to pull through into this return here. We're going to ignore that for now. So what we've got here is all our boxes, total sales and income, total purchases and expenses. And what I like to do when I'm doing my clients' GSTs is come in here and check this GST audit report tab. So what this does is it breaks down those headings into 3 separate categories. So you've got your items with 15% GST on expenses. A bit further down, I've got my items with 15% GST on income. And then at the very bottom here, I've got items which have no GST at all. So it categorizes it into three different sections there. So it's a good idea just to come in here and do a bit of a spot check of your coding for the last GST period. If I'm not sure about something, or if I want to go ahead and change the coding on something, I can click into any of these transactions here and code them, or edit the transaction from the screen here. So what's an example here? So this one here is just a general expense. If I click into it, it takes me back to this edit transaction screen. I have the option to edit the transaction, change it to drawings, or whatever I want to change it to, and click update. Now, if I go back to my GST return, that's automatically updated my GST figure, and the transaction should now be sitting down, because I've coded it to drawings, it should now be sitting down in this no GST section down here. Here it is, under drawings. So anything with a blue text or blue numbers, generally you can click into and edit or see a breakdown of it. And anything black is just your totals or headings in Xero. So when I'm happy, I can go back to my GST return screen, the front page. And what I want to do here is I want to go down to the bottom and I want to click Save as Final. So what that does is it locks that GST period off, so that if I go you know, in a month's time, if I go and change some transactions that have occurred within this May-June period, it's not going to affect this GST return. What it will do is it will make an automatic adjustment in the following GST return and automatically adjust that GST. So once I've clicked Save as Final, that return is then going to move across to the Finals tab on the screen we were looking before. And normally what would happen is you get a prompt up the top here. It says File now with IRD. So obviously it doesn't have this at the moment because it's the demo company, but normally you can click that button and it takes you directly to your My IR login. You can punch in your username and password, and that's it. It files the return with about 2 clicks and sucks all the data straight out of Xero here and saves you having to manually input anything within IRD itself. Cool. So that's pretty much the gist of bank reconciliation and GST returns. Another couple of things I'll just touch on within Xero before we head to the questions is the help center. So you might have noticed on all the pages, well, most of the pages, they've got some really handy help videos. So in our reconcile screen, for example, we've got this big help video here. By all means, use Xero for all they're worth. They're free. They've got a whole bunch of support articles and help articles in the support center up here. And they've also got a free portal for any burning questions that can't be resolved with a little bit of research here. And of course, we're always available if anyone's got any further questions. Cool. I'll jump into some Q&A, eh? Cool. I've answered Katie's one. Sorry, I'm not sure what question is exactly with the payroll question here. So when you pay your payroll, obviously it will come through just as any other expense transaction, and it will be separated in Xero, so you can code it to your appropriate code. Cool.
Thanks, Teresa.
Okay, that pretty much brings today to a close. Hopefully, if anyone's got any other questions, feel free to fire them through. We've got one here. Can I rerun GST return after it's done? So yes, you can. Once you've finalised a GST return, you do have the option to revert it back to a draft. So if I just jump to the GST return page, have a look at the one that we just did. So it's now sitting in the final returns tab. I do have the option down the bottom again to revert it to a draft. However, if the return has been filed with IRD already, it's strongly advised that you just leave this return in Xero to match with what's been filed with IRD. And if you want to make any changes down the track, by all means make your changes and they will pull through as a late claim in your next GST return. Hopefully that answers your question.
Maybe just about the chat box. I think I saw something come through.
Yeah. So the question is, how easy is it to transfer from a different software, Reckon and MYOB? Yep. So every software, depending on where you're coming from, is slightly different. We did a lot of MYOB bank link clients last year. I think we're about 95% on Xero at the moment. And Reckon, we do have a number of clients using Reckon as well. And in that case, we'd probably do a journal entry or conversion balance entry from your year end. So if it's something you're considering, I'd be willing to have a chat with you guys later on and discuss the nitty-gritty of it, for sure.
I think that's all all of the questions. If there are any more questions, feel free to flick us an email and we can get back to you. Oh,
Sorry, one last question
One last
from
one.
Joe. Yes, you can add rules for reconciling. We've got a few minutes, so I may as well touch on that as well. If I close this here. So where is this? Business. Back to our dashboard here. So in this little drop-down box here, it's available on your dashboard, or it's also available from within the bank account as well. You've got this manage account section. So from here is the same menu, and you've got this little option to set up bank rules. So within the bank rules section, you can add spend money rules, receive money rules, or transfer money rules. So these are another really handy thing if you have a number of transactions that are the same every month or every week. You can set up a rule to just cut out that manual entry. We've sort of found them a little bit redundant because Xero's machine learning is so good, and often if you're coding something to the same thing every time, Xero's machine learning will pick that up anyway. But by all means, you can set up more specific rules if you want to pick up more specific transactions. So to do that, you can run through this create rule section here and add in your fields that you want Xero to recognize, set the contact box, set the what box, and then save your item here, and it should pick up the rules as they come through. So I think at the moment there's one rule set up for the 7-Eleven transactions. So if I jump back to our dashboard and jump into our reconcile screen again, see we've got a rule already in the system here for 7-Eleven, and it's just recognizing that it's a 7-Eleven transaction and asking if we want to apply the rule. We can go ahead and click OK. Sweet. Hopefully that answers the question. So IRD set penalties. They have a range of different penalties depending on what return you're filing. GST returns straight off the bat is a $50 late filing penalty if you do happen to be late, and they also charge use of money interest as well if your payment is also late. But that is a percentage on the total amount. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have a lovely afternoon, and we'll see you around. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye.